Magandang umaga po sa lahat. Good morning, everyone. Start settling down. It's 9 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock. We will be beginning our program in a few minutes. Welcome to the Leong Hall Auditorium. Welcome to our on-site Faculty Day. And for those who cannot make it today, we have emailed a YouTube link to you. So sana napapanood po ninyo kami live dito po sa Leong Hall. We will be starting our program in a few minutes. Stay put, kayo po mga nasa bahay or mga nasa daan, ay kumuha na po kayo ng inyong maiinom na kape o ng inyong merienda. If you're driving, please drive safely. But then again, you might be caught in traffic, so you might still be safe not moving. So ingat po kayo. We hope we can, our transmission and our streaming is clear para sa inyo. Yes, hello fellow faculty. For those who, we have plenty of seats up front. For those who still want to observe physical distancing, the seats here are very far away from those at the back. So please occupy them. It's great to see how we are very trusting now of our distance from each other. No? Dati po, 2 arms length apart ang ating practice, but now we seem to be more comfortable sitting closer to each other. Ayan. Pribilehyo po yun, no? Na maging magkakatabi muli. O ang piliin na maging magkakatabi o magkakalayo, no? Yan. Pribilehyo din natin yan. We have a couple of minutes before we start this semester's Faculty Day. Habang nanonood po kayo, we have announcements from the Office of the Campus Ministry for some of their programs. It might also help us carve out time to participate and join in the programs. Yan po ang isa sa mga gagawin ko ngayon. Sawang-sawa na po yata ang OCM sa akin sa kaka-RDL ko dahil parang wala naman pong nangyayari. But at least you know that people don't give up on you. Wow. Yes. This has nothing to do with Valentine's Day though. It's the Valentine's month, sabi nila. Baka po nakita sabi nila talaga, ayokong maniwala. No? It's Valentine's month. You might have seen the blue hearts outside. It's an activity for the Loyola Schools community, commissioned by the Loyola Schools. Thank you to Father Jason who conceptualized the blue hearts, where we are being asked what amazes our hearts with joy and gratitude. Salamat kay Jethro Tenorio na nagsalin dito, ano ang nagpapaapaw sa iyong puso ng galak at pasasalamat? You may want to answer that question too quietly, or you can also write your answers using the writing materials provided outside. May mga tao pa sa labas, okay lang? May mga tao pa sa labas. Sino ang magdedel? We are about to ring the bell to remind our colleagues outside to start coming in the Leong Hall Auditorium. Marami pong salamat. May basbas po ng misa ang mga bulaklak na to, so sana mag-emanate ang energy na yon sa ating lahat mula sa podium patungo dito sa inyo. Yes, oo. Again, for those who are remotely joining us, we have emailed the link on the YouTube link. We've emailed it this morning for those who have expressed that they cannot join this morning but wish to hear the proceedings at this morning's Faculty Day. Magandang umaga sa inyo. Sana mayroon kayong masarap na almusal at maginhawang umaga saan man kayo naroroon. Welcome, welcome to our faculty. Welcome to the second semester's Faculty Day. Our second Faculty Day for the school year. Our second invitation also to have an on-site Faculty Day. This time we are doing it more fully on-site with a facility to stream today's proceedings via an unlisted link on YouTube. Sinabi ko talaga unlisted. Ayan. Ayan. But hopefully, our colleagues who cannot join us this morning have received the email so that they can check out the YouTube link and join us remotely. Ayan. Muli, marami pa po tayong upuan dito sa harapan. We have plenty of seats near the screen. Mas maganda po ang sightline dito. Pareho lang din po ang presyo, kagaya po sa sinihan. Kahit saan po kayo umupo, pareho lang po ang presyo. In fact, wala naman pong bayad sa panonood dito sa harapan. Ayan. All right. Sige. It's 9:10 in the morning. We will be hearing the bell in a few minutes. Not this warning bell, but the school bell in a few minutes. Yes, the bell outside is harking. Harking talaga, parang Pasko. Is calling on our colleagues to come in. We have close to 300 faculty and professionals from the Loyola schools who have registered for this morning's Faculty Day. And so we formally begin our program, our Faculty Day this morning, coming from our Holy Mass at the Immaculate Conception Chapel. We invite everyone to please rise for the Philippine National Anthem to be led by Mr. Cholo Malilin. And let us remain standing for the invocation to be sung also by Mr. Chris Castillo, Mr. Cholo Malilin, and Mr. Rene San Andres.
Sabay-sabay po nating awitin ang ating pambansang awit. Bayang maghihiling, pelas na silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulugin, di ka pasisil, sa dagat at bundok sisingoyan, sa langit mong bugaw, may nilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang islap ng watawag mo'y tagumpay na nagnininim, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pamay di magidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walhati pagsikla, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya ng pag may mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. Let us put ourselves in the presence of God and pray for all of our individual intentions for the day. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Where there is fear, I can allay. Where there is pain, I can heal. Where there are wounds, I can bind. And hunger, I can fill. Lord, grant me courage. Lord, grant me strength. Grant me compassion, that I may be your heart today. Where there is hate, I can confront. Where there are yokes, I can release. Where there are captives, I can free. And anger, I can appease. Lord, grant me courage. Lord, grant me strength. Grant me compassion, that I may be your heart today. When comes the day I dread, to see a broken world, compel me from my cell grown cold, that your people I may behold. Where there is fear, I can allay. Where there is pain, I can heal. Where there are wounds, I can bind. And hunger, I can fill. Lord, grant me courage. Lord, grant me strength. Grant me compassion, that I may be I've done all that I could, yet there are hearts I cannot move. Lord, give me hope that I may be your heart today. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Maraming salamat, Sir Rene, Cholo, and Chris. Maraming na po tayo magsipo. We can take our seats now. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Please give yourselves a round of applause for coming over here. Maraming salamat po for joining us on site sa ating Faculty Day. I'm Ariel Dicson from the Department of Filipino. Ako po ang inyong School Forum Chair para sa school year na ito. Welcome to Balik Tanaw, looking back with compassion, moving forward with courage. Maraming salamat po ulit sa pagdalo sa inyo. Ito po ako, inimbitahan kayo as School Forum Chair na dumalo dito sa School Forum kahit na nung ako ay bata ay hindi pala attend ng School Forum. No? Yes. Para pong yung imbitasyon na magbayad ng buwis. Naririnig po natin yan dito po sa ating streaming sa unlisted na YouTube link. Kasama ng ating mga guro na hindi natin makakasama pa at the moment. We look forward to spending time with you physically dito po sa ating campus whenever possible. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagdalo. Muli ako po si Ariel Dicson. Pinapauso po ulit ang skinny jeans. Yan po ang contribution ko sa Balik Tanaw. No? Oo, no. Nausong-usong skinny jeans, kakapal na padding. I grew up in the 80s, no? I grew up in the 80s nung at I remember my nanay whose birthday we celebrate today. Maraming salamat, nanay. She would have been 70 today. Maraming salamat sa OCM at kay Father Jet, binanggit nila sa misa kanina ang aking nanay. Siya ang una kong guro. She was my very first teacher. And I remember, she carved out time habang may sari-sari store kami. Tinututoran niya ako. I stopped schooling for 1 full year because I threw tantrums. I did not want to be left at school. So, she instead schooled me habang nagbabantay ng sari-sari store. And I remember I asked her why apple was spelled thus. Why can't we pronounce the letter E? Sabi ko, apple to apple. Bakit apple? And then my mother said, ganun talaga anak, minsan may mga bagay na nandyan, pero hindi natin kailangan bigkasin. I was 5 years old then, so how can I did not know the depth of that, syempre, at 5 years old. Parang, what? Parang, ano yun? Parang ganun. But of course, now we look back with compassion to that memory and maraming salamat at mukhang may timo iyon, may antig sa atin ngayon. There are some things that that are there but don't need to be said. But however, we have a facility to express these sentiments today. Maraming salamat sa ating mga junior faculty. Meron po tayong inorganize nila na kasatulong ng ALSA. Mamaya po may carry pa ba kumustahan mamaya after ng ating mga plenary with our the respective schools as continuation of our faculty day. Ayan. Last ko pong gustong banggitin, ito po ay pagbabalik na. We look back with courage, with compassion so that we can move forward with courage. I remember a cliche, an adage sa Filipino, ang hindi lumingon sa pinanggalingan ay hindi makararating sa paroroonan. If you take that literally, that sounds really absurd and funny.
Diba? You take that literally, it's ironic. No, you can't. You can't. I remember sharing that adage when I was sent to Beijing for the first time to teach to Chinese students Filipino. At yun ang aking binungad. No, because hoping that I could share something about, Filipino proverbs. And instead of sharing the value and the lesson of that salawikain to them, it became a lesson about grammar because they did not understand the sentence structure. Ang hindi lumingon, hindi po ba dapat after ng ang noun ang sumunod? Bakit po hindi yung sumunod? And they were asking this to me in Filipino. And I think that was a lesson for me, very humble lesson for me as a teacher. I did not understand their context as learners who were learning the language for the very first time. They were still in their second year. And here I was asserting what I wanted to teach them, not really fully understanding the context. And I hopefully this morning, even as we keep on answering to the call of moving forward with so many changes, we take this day to look back, to see and hear and what we have experienced through the study that has been done as initiated by the Office of the University President. Our experiences individually and collectively noong nakaraang pandemya, hoping that these information, these insights that came from all of us, from you, fellow faculty, even those who are at home, kasama po kayo, hopefully these insights, these information can inform, can help influence our insights, also our plans as we move forward courageously. So ito po ang ating umaga ngayon, and so I hope we invite you to also have that compassionate and courageous heart for yourself. At kaya po, panghuli, meron po tayong blue hearts na nandun. Ito po ay isang gawain na pinangunahan kasama ni Father Jason D. There's an abstract outside. Andito ba si Father Jason? Father Jason, palakpakan po natin si Father Jason D. Blue Hearts is an art installation that will be moving throughout the campus within the semester, asking this question, what amazes my heart with joy and gratitude? At sa kabila nga, maraming salamat Jethro Tenorio for translating. Ano ang nagpapaapaw sa puso ko ng galak at pasasalamat? No? We'd like to thank the CFMO Building Care Section team who have helped Father Jason also put into actuality the design. We thank Leia Gonzalez, Fidel Manaog, Ingo Raza, Gilbert Mandia, Andre Ticar, Edwin Macasias, Nelson Casinas, Francis Mejias Jr., Arnold Bayog, June Batalya, Romel Rosario, and Michael Lobo. Palakpakan naman po natin din sila. Kahapon po namin install. Our students have started answering the question. I think what amazes our hearts with joy and gratitude are also our deepest and strongest desires na sometimes hindi din natin pa nakakamit. At yan po ako, sporting fresh out of bed look after a 2 p.m. siesta. Ayan, oo. Thank you. Kasama namin si Father Jason. Ayan. So hopefully these questions or these things continue to tickle our minds and our hearts today as we listen to the speakers we have this morning and until we share our insights at kumustahan hanggang mamayang hapon. Para po magsimula sa araw na ito, hindi pa ako po yun, hindi pa pala ako yung nagsisimula rito, no? To formally welcome us, we have our Loyola Vice President for the Loyola Schools, who is also now our Vice President for Higher Education. Pakinggan po natin at palakpakan, Dr. Marlu Vilches.
Father Bobby, our Loyola Schools deans and administrators, faculty, professionals, maybe there are students here, all the members of the Loyola Schools, good morning. Our Faculty Day theme is Balik Tanaw, looking back with compassion, moving forward with courage. I chanced upon this digital art on the internet. It's a girl on the moon looking back at the earth. What must she be thinking of? We can only guess. And I think all our guesses will be correct. I don't know if you have the same practice as I do. At the end of each calendar year, I go over the nooks and crannies of the year and do what I call my Thanksgiving accountability. I now have quite a collection of memoirs, complete with photos and anecdotes that I share with family and close friends. What we remember are those events, people, feelings, ideas, and images that form the overall narrative of meanings that characterize the year that passed. The memorist in all of us sifts through all this and uses our imagination to weave the tapestry of truth and meaning in our experiences. As Patricia Hampel in her famous essay that we used to teach our students, my students in English 11, Memory and Imagination, that essay tells us what is remembered is what becomes reality because we only store in memory images of value. So that's what we're trying to do or aim at doing during this Faculty Day, to remember what is of value stored in our memory as we travel through time this year, having been freed better from our lockdown state during the last 2 years. And we look back with compassion and forgiveness, respecting the limited material we recognize ourselves to be. And yet, despite being limited, we have also gained so much with grace. And so we can look forward with courage and strength, not alone, but together as a community. In looking back and moving forward, I would like to take the point of view of Mary Oliver, who has a very down-to-earth voice of experience. In one of her famous prose poems, she says, "If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give in to it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not very often kind, and much can never be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely you notice it in the instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb." I like the lines, "Don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb." Joy is abundance. Its tendency is to spread out, not to hide. Like in today's gospel, light is not supposed to be hidden. It has to be shown. To let go and to be the good news of joy, almost like its own duty of being. To be able to spread itself is almost joy's own duty of being. And so when we look back at our year in the Loyola Schools, we recall plenty of joys. Our record in the THE World University Rankings during our first attempt to participate in that exercise. Of course, when we participated also for the first time in the THE Impact Rankings, we got a very high score. For QS Asia, university rankings, Ateneo de Manila is still at the top among private universities in the Philippines. We know how tough the competition was, but we made it. Notice the unflinching look of Coach Tab, watching the boys perform their utmost and capping it with a championship for the UAAP Season 85, and the bonfire said it all. We also conquer the world in debates. Our unassuming BS Applied Mathematics Data Science students, David Africa and Toby Leong, both of the Ateneo Debate Society, wowed their audience when with eloquentia et sapientia, they fought to argue against the usual take on Ubuntu. I am because we are. They argued for the role of the individual in working out ways of achieving identity. The Ateneo Debate Society with Africa and Leong also bagged the Asian Debate Tournament after winning the world title, so many congratulations indeed. In December 2022, we had an on-site assessment by the AUNQA for 3 of our programs, BS Management Economics, BS Legal Management, and BS Management Information Systems. This January, we got information on the very good results of that assessment. For the first time, we garnered an overall score of 5. Our earlier assessments got up to 4. So it's indeed a bump harvest for us this past year. In terms of teaching and learning, this past year we continued to get acclimatized to the on-site, face-to-face classes, but with support from online facilities. It is noted that a lot of our students would like to have their classes on-site. We hope that our faculty members who still seem to be hesitant to teach on-site will be encouraged and inspired by the desire of our students to meet them in their classrooms. So I salute those who are seniors and with comorbidities who continue to teach on-site in our new modality. Our campus is actually safer than any other place of interest. In terms of research, the count of our Scopus indexed publications for 2022 is still rising. As of February, we were at 341, and I think that will continue to rise. Of course, beyond Scopus, we have numerous other publications. The Office of the Associate Dean for Research and Creative Work, headed by Dr. Jail Cornelio, has plans for other grants meant to encourage research interest and output. The LS Public Engagement Grants, the International Collaboration Grant, the Writer in Residence Grant, and the Ateneo Faculty Exchange Grants. All these plans are still needing fleshing out with specific guidelines, logistics, and corresponding responsibilities. In terms of structure, we put back in place the Office of the Associate Dean for Student Affairs. The 3 people here who did our opening prayer, as I was telling Father Bobby, that's ADSA for you, for Faculty Day today. So that's a good way of introducing themselves. So this office is that it takes care of the day-to-day in student life. So those are the familiar places of introduction, faces introduced this morning. So now we look at some highlights, but only some highlights from the individual schools in the Loyola schools. There's a lot more. These are not comprehensive, and they do not include all the awards and accolades of faculty and students, as well as research output and capabilities. In my school, in the School of Humanities, headed by Dr. Jonathan Chua, the PE department has finally found a home after years of wandering in the desert. Thank you. Thank you, School of Humanities. So, some public awards garnered. One is the Catholic Mass Media Awards. Dr. Gary De Villas received the award on behalf of the Filipino department. Is Gary here? Gary, yes, your dean said to me, Dr. Gary De Villas did not melt even in the presence of the cardinal. Thank you, Gary. Then at the Palanca, Dr. Egay Samar had a grand welcome. Egay just came back from a stint in Japan. So then look at what he has done for himself and for all of us. And then Exi Abola continues to make the name there for Palanca. Nikki Carcy Cruz got the Excellence in Teaching Award from the School of Humanities. And faculty also got additional support through their PhD hurdles. The big donor is Kwan Laurel, and that's Jonathan Chua's magic wand. Jonathan, you're here. Yes, thank you, School of Humanities. In the John Gokongwei School of Management, our dean has been actively pursuing engaging the school in partnerships with local, for example, the Quezon City government and the Red Cross, and international institutions. Ongoing negotiations with the Singapore Management University and Fordham for JGSOM to be able to develop 4+1 programs in which students do their undergrad degree in Ateneo de Manila and be facilitated to do a 1-year specialized master's degree abroad. So way to go, JGSOM. Give a round of applause to JGSOM. In the School of Science and Engineering, we congratulate Obi Cambalisa. Is Obi here? Yes. For her National Academy of Science and Technology Environmental Science Award. In terms of research, ARISE still takes the lead in its role as the hub for social research activities. You can have a look at their annual report, very impressive list of activities and research output. SOSE is developing collaborative programs in the engineering field as well. One with the NLRT, what is soon going to be a BSMS Railway Engineering. With ICAM in France, they are developing a joint multidisciplinary engineering program named Parcouvert, perhaps meaning an open program. It addresses the need for systems thinking, integral ecology, and bridging cultural divides. In August this year, it will bring to our campus an international cohort of students, African, French, South American, for the entire school year. That's why we need to build our labs soon. So we are converting 2 classrooms into labs to address more immediately the needs of this course. Ask Paeng to tell you more about this exciting new venture. So we give a round of applause to the School of Science and Engineering. In the School of Social Sciences, their additional structure, of course, is the Lyon Institute for Global and Area Studies. It will strengthen efforts already done by programs like Chinese Studies, Korean Studies, Japanese Studies. Hot off the press, February 7th, the Ateneo de Manila signed an MOA with the House of Representatives to launch a partnership called Evidence-Based Research Project, which is led by the Department of Economics and the Center for Economic Research and Development. The research aims to support the current administration's 8-point agenda in the Philippine Development Plan 2023-2028 towards achieving Ambisyon Natin 2040, allowing academic researchers to actively participate in policy discussions and provide input based on evidence backed by theory. Internally, SOS is also more increasingly drawn towards collaboration with other schools because of its recognized expertise in many fields. For example, the ASMPH is trying to develop a Master in Public Health program, seeking collaboration between and among SOSE and SOS. So Dean Popeep found areas of engagement among the different departments, as you can see on the screen. The collaborative venture of SOS is likewise shown through its participation in the global, where is it now? Wait, I lost my paper. I'll have to recourse to this. In the Global Citizenship Program. Wait, sorry about that. Yes, in the, wait, just a minute. Yes, in the Global Citizenship Program, and this is a program that is under the banner of the Association of Jesuit Universities in the world. And Dr. Nino Laviste, congratulations Nino for teaching a module from this program. I hope that this is not just a one-off thing. So we give a round of applause to the School of Social Sciences. The Gokongwei Brothers School of Education and Learning Design is ready to roll out its 2 doctoral degree programs, complete with scholarships. The GB SEAL is also developing an undergraduate BS in Learning Sciences and Design. This will be quite interdisciplinary, involving departments where the disciplines are housed. The Lily is in place. It's our way of helping leadership development in educational institutions, especially in the public sector. Father Johnny has been networking, trying to see what collaborative ventures can be drawn between GB SEALD and, first of all, Jesuit universities. So the first is the Lynch School of Education and Human Development in Boston College. And finally, a note on publication: the book Christianity in East and Southeast Asia can now be obtained from Amazon on paperback. Father Francis doesn't write his homilies, but in this book, we can read Father Francis. Let's give the GB SEALD and Father Francis a round of applause. So I must say that this looking back, really this is just a surface looking back, has been an amazing adventure, a source of inspiration and courage for us, and the narrative is not even comprehensive. I'd like to go back to Mary Oliver as a final note to my remarks. Mary Oliver says, "When it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms." What a wonderful take on life and experiences, I thought. With us, nothing is yet over. We have a long way to go, but it's good to wrap up every segment of our experience with a sense of amazement and with the joy of taking the world into our arms. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Doc Marlu. Yes. Nice metaphor to have, being the bride and the bridegroom at the same time. I look with hope, gaya nga po ng ending ng prayer natin. I look back at myself with compassion so that I may move forward with courage. Yes, maraming salamat, Doc Marlu, sa inyong ibinahagi. Tama si Doc Marlu, ito ay surface pa lamang po ng ating mga gawain ng pag-look back at also pag-move forward in our day-to-day. From Dr. Vilches, we move to our university president, who will also be sharing his message to us. Pakinggan po natin at palakpakan si Father President, Father Bobby Yap. Father Bobby?
Thank you, Ariel. I share the theme of our Faculty Day, Balik Tanaw, but I have a different subtitle. I look back really at 2022 with really much gratitude, and based on the achievements there, very hopeful for 2023. Actually, I'd like to greet our new Vice President for Higher Education. We appointed her in last Saturday's board meeting, and then we were looking for her because she was gone. She was away until yesterday. I think she went away. So natakot ako. Sabi ko, baka umaatras na ayaw. Anyway, thank you, Marlu, again. And thank you for your presentation. The theme that sort of brings my talk together is really the Ignatian value that we have, Magis, the passion for excellence. For us, as we know, excellence is always very important. Father General Colvenbach once said that only excellence is apostolic. If it's worth doing at all, it's really worth doing our very best. And That has always been a characteristic of Jesuit education for many, many years now, that we always aim at educational excellence. And again, thank you, Marlo, for presenting what has been done by all the schools. What I really want to do today, in the short time I've given, is really just to go more deeply into the two of the things that Marlo mentioned. No? First, the THE impact rankings. As she said, we started to join this in 2 years ago in 2021, and then we came out very well. We were the first time we submitted, we were the #1 Philippine university. Then we continued in 2022, we resubmitted again to participate in these rankings. Among the different rankings that are out there, I've always liked this one because I think the THE impact is the one closest to our Jesuit mission. In a general meeting of Jesuit universities in Mexico, our then Father Provincial, Adolfo Nicolas, said that the Jesuit university must be a proyecto social. Quoting Father Lacoria, the president of UCAN, the El Salvadorian president, the university president who was murdered actually. But he always said that the Jesuit university must be proyecto social. That means we must be involved in social transformation. To be a Jesuit university, we must be engaged in our mission statement, that we must be a force for good that really engages society and its problems. And the THE impact rankings really measure how a university contributes to furthering the sustainable development goals. And that's why I say this one is really the one closest to our mission as a Jesuit university. And therefore, I think we should be very pleased that the 2 times we have joined, we have come out as the #1 Philippine university, because it's a good mark of what we want to do. It's a good assessment. Of course, we have submitted, I think we have submitted for the coming year, and we will continue to do so. As we said, last year, we were ranked highly, and we were in the 101 to 200 range, and we were cited particularly for 6 particular sustainable development goals that we ranked very well among the 17 sustainable development goals. The first one was really clean water and sanitation. It talks about what is the research of the university for clean water, our internal own water usage policies, and our commitment to ensure good water management in the wider community. And so we submit, and I just cite, one example, or one research, for example, that we submitted, design of remote real-time groundwater level, water quality monitoring system for the Philippine government, and very interdisciplinary, and many people contributed to this particular research that gave us a very high rank in terms of this particular sustainable development goal. We also need not just to submit for impact rankings, we also need to submit projects and activities that we do. So it's not only publications, it's not only research. So for activities, we said, does university as a body promote conscious water usage on campus? And so we gave the example of what Ateneo Institute of Sustainability has done for our own water usage, for example. So we give these evidences to be evaluated. Then, of course, it also considers what is a service for the local community to learn about good water management. And we have this project where there is a project to help of this particular group, Luklod Tao, to assemble low-cost solar-powered water systems. So projects and activities are also submitted, and these are just some of the examples. For SDG number 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, measures the research and sustainability, the role of custodians of art and heritage, etc. This is an example of the research we submitted, non-tropical cyclone-related winter, heavy rainfall events over the Philippines. People from Manila Observatory and the late Gemma Narisma wrote this particular paper, which is an example of our contribution to this particular SDG. For projects, we gave an example as a body, set targets for sustainable commuting, walking, cycling, and we sort of presented the initiatives that we have inside this campus for particularly promoting sustainable transportation, our e-jeeps, bike lanes, etc. For number 16, peace and justice and strong institutions, again, we submitted a research legitimizing state violence, comparative positioning analysis of these courses by Tina Montiel and Ryan Camacho. We submitted this particular research as, again, part of that SGD. Again, we submitted, of course, projects that we are doing, specific expert advice to local government, to national government. We showed the example of our coastal cities at risk in the Philippines, led by Professor Emma Porio, the city engagements that we do. They're very involved in different cities all over the world, or over the country, for particular sustainability efforts. The last one is that we were particularly cited was 17 partnerships for the goals, improving how we can support through collaboration. We did research. We have studies on our own service learning as global citizenship education. Then we also have worked with particular NGOs to tackle the SDGs to volunteer programs, and we gave this example, a sector-based cluster. So this is really the efforts for the THE impact rankings. These are the things we need to submit. We have shown we contribute to this particular SDG, particular researches, particular projects, particular activities. And as I said, this is really the one closest to us in terms of our mission. And I hope we continue to do well with all the efforts that we are doing in the university in terms of research and projects and activities. The second one that I'd like to go into a little detail is really the THE World Impact Rankings 2023, which is also mentioned by Marlu. Again, it's the first time we really qualified. There's a certain number of papers we have to produce. I think it's 1,000 over 5 years, and at least a minimum of 100 a year. And it's good to hear that this year we're already 300 plus. So for the first time we qualified, again, we are number one in the Philippines. And to be honest, I think if you talk to the deans and the other people, we were really surprised that we were number one right away. Just to be honest, because so again, pleasantly surprised. We're number one in the Philippines. UP had been topping it the past few years, but the first time we submitted, and a very wide gap. So the other thing that we want to mention, I think this should be mentioned. We're in top 5 of ASEAN. If you compare, yeah, let's give ourselves some. Of course, the Singapore universities lead. They're really, I think, recognized. They're really world class. But we are tied for number 4 with University of Malaya in Malaysia. Surprisingly, I was thinking Chulalongkorn should be there, Thammasat, Mahidol, the Thai universities in Indonesia, but they're not. Again, really pleasant surprise that we are in the top 5 of ASEAN. So UMCO should publicize this more. Among the Jesuit universities in Asia Pacific, we are also number 1. I surveyed it, and among the Jesuits universities in Asia Pacific, only 3 submitted. And look at how well we did compared to Sogang and compared to Sophia. So our students like to go to Sophia and Sogang, so we can tell them they can actually stay here better. Okay. I also compared. We're not too bad. There are, interestingly, only 2 Jesuit universities in the US submitted. And in comparison to them, we are not too far, actually. I mean, Georgetown, of course, was the highest, but Boston College, but we're not very far. I had guests from Fordham last month, and I said, you didn't even submit. So again, it's really much to celebrate, much to be grateful for. So I'd like to go into more detail to understand what's behind this. Um, we were ranked high for subject areas for education, 400 to 500, for social sciences also. Um, Again, this is the eligibility we talked about. You need to submit 1,000 publications in the 5-year period, 150 a year. And we have fulfilled it, and that's why we qualified to finally be included in the THE ranking. These are the scores that we actually got overall, and different areas that we are looked into. And this is comparison to the Philippines. So if you look at teaching, research 30%, citations 30%, industry income, international outlook, we did really well in the teaching, 32.4 compared to the other Philippine universities. And then we did, I think this is really the big driver, the citations, how much the research has been cited. And as you can see, we did very well, and that's how we really got pulled up. So again, these are just the measures that they look at. Thanks to Dr. De Las Peñas, who has really studied this, and some of the slides I got from her. But we look at citations because clearly that's the driver why we scored so well. And amazingly, there's a way, I won't go into it, but they have some weighted averaging for the citations, and we got 97 score. And if it's too small to see, but if these are some of the universities, we're the same rating for citation as Cambridge and Yale. Diba? Okay. So again, you compare, that's how we really beat the other Philippine universities. This is field-weighted citations, country normalized citations. That's our citation score. La Salle 23, Mapua 8, and UP 62. So that's really the one that pulls us up. So we had to look at it very closely, and we have been studying this. These are the citations. There was a real high score in 2017 over the past few years that drove our scores. And if you look at it closely, it's primarily because of articles that were published in Lancet, and our contributor was affiliated with ASMPH, Erlene Makarayan, and she's part of the Global Burden of Disease Study Collaboration. These are the number of citations of that article where she is one of the co-authors. Then also in 2020, there was also a spike in the citations, and that's really because, again, of articles in Lancet, which had very high, and it's co-authored by Vincent Pepito of ASMPH, again, a Global Burden of Disease Study Collaborator. So that's what drove it a lot. And so we had to study what is this Global Burden of Disease Collaborator Network. It's really because there's a study group, and they do multi-country studies. And the good thing, I think, is it's not only doctors who can qualify to be a research collaborator, but scientists of all kinds, even social scientists, can participate. So we need to pay close attention to it. See, Pepito is still part of ASMPH, so okay. So so that's the part that you do not tell other people. Because those are really, we're not sure. We met THE recently, last year, and they told us that they are going to modify the rules a bit. They said there are some studies about outliers. So I was with Rose, is Rose here? I was with SQMO Rose, and we said, maybe that's an outlier. So what we will do actually is we will meet the HE in next month, I think, sit down with them, and they will apply the new rules to the data of last year and to see how much it changes our rankings, if ever. But again, we wait, we continue to work, we continue to publish, we continue to hope to be cited, we continue to hope to be highly rated in teaching, And again, we manage, of course, expectations. But again, it's a good sign. And I think it's really worth celebrating that we scored so highly in the THE ranking. So let's give ourselves a round of applause. Of course, this is cited by Marlu. Again, it's a nice story to end the year of 2022. As you know, those of you who are fans and follow the Blue Eagles, we didn't do too well in the first round. That the conversations then was, will we make it to Final Four? That was the conversation. And then so sort of suddenly we started to do very well. And at the end of the second round, to our surprise again, we were number one. Uh, and we had twice to beat, and then we went to the finals. We knew UP was really, really strong. Of course, we lost the game one, but of course we have faith and we continue to believe. So we all went there. But again, it was a really nice way because in many ways it was very unexpected. Even I met Coach Tab months before the UAP began, and he was really downplaying expectations. He says, I'm not very sure about this year. So it was really a happy time for us, way to end Christmas, way to end the year and start to celebrate Christmas. And then, of course, as the beginning of the year came, we got again the happy news about the World Debating Champions. We already celebrated David Africa and Tobillion. Let's give them a round of applause. So like Marlo, I really think there's really a lot to be grateful for, and we can really build on these achievements. We come out stronger and we move forward, especially motivated by our ideal of magis, of a passion for excellence, of doing our best in whatever we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Father Bobby, for sharing those information and those news muli para sa aking bahagi ng pagbabalik tanaw. Before we pause for our coffee break and our group photo by the Leong Hall Steps, we have this time for questions, comments, or clarifications that may be addressed to Dr. Vilches and Father Bobby bago po tayo lumabas. And we have our microphones also here. And yes,
hello.
Hi, yes.
I'm Joseph Johnson from the Department of Theology. I do have a question. Since the pandemic, it's been very difficult for many faculty members who are parents to arrange childcare. And I do want to thank the university for allowing campus access to adorable folks like my little daughter who's accompanying me today. It's really eased the burden on me. But my wife and I have been talking, and we really do miss the child care place, which VPLS took initiative in forming before the pandemic and which had to close due to it. We are concerned about the long-term intellectual and social deficits that our child has had to confront, being in isolation for nearly 3 years. And if she could have a place to play while my wife and I do our work, it would be very beneficial, I think, for everybody, especially since on-site instruction has resumed at the primary education level. So I'd like to ask the university administration if they could commit to reopening the child care place.
Thank you, Joseph, for that.
Thank you for that. I think that's been part of what we have been thinking of. Yeah, that's true that before the pandemic, we had a child care center. And we're still trying to see how that's going to work, because it's also our responsibility. The kids are our responsibility. We would like, even now, coming back to here, some people don't even want to come back here yet. So if we have that facility, we need to know how to take care of those kids. Like if they get sick here, what are we supposed to do? So it's more complex, really, than just setting up the childcare. But that doesn't mean that we don't have that in mind to set it up. But as you saw as well, even opening the campus to students took a long time because we had to ask permission from government, etc. But even this one will also be done that way. So it's part of what we want to do, but it's not as easy as we think it is, the putting up the child care center. Thank you very much. I hope you can be a little bit more patient because it's not really easy to say that we have that, and yet what is our responsibility? We need to look at the long-term responsibility as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc Marlo. Thank you. Thank you. Again, for those who want to ask questions, kindly proceed to our microphone. We have, unahin muna natin si Sir. Okay.
Hello, good morning. I'm John Daniel Magsalin from the Department of Chemistry. Sorry, I think I'm a bit too tall for the mic. I think I would like to just voice out a bit of concern for us part-time faculty. Sorry, there. I was actually a bit touched with this morning's sermon being salt and light as faculty and to the students, but I think for some part-time faculty, we also need to have that salt and light to us. And I think, I'm not sure if other part-time faculty share the same sentiment, but it's a concern regarding our contracts, which normally end during the last day of finals week. And I've already raised this to HR, the dean's office, and so on. And I'm a bit concerned, like, we do still work after that date. We do still check, calculate, grade students after the last day of finals. Some students would come forward, sir, can we get an INC? Sir, I have an NE. Some request for an extensions of those grades. And we would therefore have to work beyond the contract dates, but are no longer compensated. So I'm just not sure how that works unless we can actually submit their exams and requirements to another office for them to be graded instead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I think there is a way of explaining this from the perspective of Ormod, but when the contract is signed, the contract includes the responsibilities of the person signing the contract. And part of the responsibility of teachers is to give the grade, to submit the grade. Whether it is within the date or after the date, that's part of the responsibility. That's how I understand it to mean. So, but I need HR to explain that, but my understanding is that if there's a contract, I will fulfill the responsibilities within the contract. And even, for example, for those of us who have consultancy work, beyond the contract of the consultancy work, if you haven't finished your final report, you still have to finish the final report, but that's already part of the compensation within the contract.
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, it's a bit weird though, because the contract never really states anything other than the number of our pay rate. There's not even a clear definition of the duties and responsibilities that is expected of us, which I would just assume as a faculty member would be to prepare and to teach and to grade and to finally calculate everything. But it's just a one-page thing. So there might not be a clear discussion or understanding what those supposed duties and responsibilities would be. Because we are very much welcome, like waiting for students to finish their papers if they get an INC. But it just feels a bit weird that the contract has been finished and we are to some degree, waiting for students. We're somewhat at their mercy. Like, when would they finish their scores? And as part-time faculty, it might just incentivize us not to give NEs or INCs anymore, or even finish the semester earlier, because we do need the time to properly calculate grades or even run after students who have deficiencies in our courses.
Yeah, I hear you, but I still feel that even if it is not in the contract, it's in the faculty manual what the duties and responsibilities are of teachers, and that includes all the ones that you have enumerated. So I don't think that contract, I'm not sure if that contract will really outline every responsibility there. But it's assumed that because you're teaching and because the faculty manual enumerates all of these obligations, that the teacher also takes that on.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Then I think, would it be a bit more clear for us if we have the end of the date of the contract on the submission of the grades? Since that would mean like all of our responsibilities by then should have been done.
We'll have to refer that to HR.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc Marlo. Thank you for that question.
Sir?
Good morning. I'm Gabby Lopez. I'm a senior teacher, part-time. I've always had this idea and I've been raising it. Naiinggit kasi ako doon sa mga JVP, which at my time, years ago, decades ago, wala pa. So, but the JVP program is only for, I think, the young ones. Bawal yata kaming matanda. Tama ba yun? So, naglakas loob ako. I volunteered to teach in Culion on my own. And Father Boggs allowed me for one semester. I was not part of the JVP. I talked to Father Bill Kreutz about it. But it was a very fruitful experience because here I am from Ateneo de Manila sharing with Loyola College of Culion. And some of my students there are now professionals here and in the provinces. Siguro baka magkaroon tayo ng, kung papayag kayo, ng senior JVP or whatever.
Salamat, Sir Gabby. Father?
Yeah, thank you for the sense of volunteerism. JVP was really designed for new graduates. In fact, Father Jet was year one of JVP. So it's really designed for that. But the sense of exchanges, I remember pre-pandemic, the different Ateneos, I was still in Cagayan then, in Ateneo de Xavier, and we were discussing the possibility of exchanges of teachers, that if people from Ateneo de Cagayan, people from de Manila can go to Ateneo de Davao, people from the Cagayan de Oro come to go to Zamboanga or go to Naga. We were starting to look at it, and in fact, is Bobby Gev here? Yeah, Bobby Gev actually was spent a sabbatical, no? He spent your sabbatical, so she did it during his sabbatical. So we are open, of course, to exchanges that are there, and maybe we can pursue that. But yes, the sense of exchanging faculty was starting to be discussed to strengthen the network of Ateneos. Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Father Bobby. Other questions, clarifications? Meron po tayong mga narinig about our desires also for our faculty, no? For our extended family in the faculty, for the contracts of our faculty.
Hi, sorry
Yes.
again. I might be putting a target on my own back now. But I think this is moving forward with the university's goal towards excellence and basically overall preparedness for our students. But I think it's a big concern, especially for SOSE or maybe for my colleagues in the chemistry department, that most of our lab classes, well, our labs have been filled to capacity, and most lab classes are already being overfilled. There's actually a CHED CMO stating like around 25 students per lab, where some classes now have been registered up to 30. There was one registration problem happened that a colleague of mine had 48 students in a lab. And I think we would just want to raise if there would be a possibility of having either more faculty or more labs. Since we do have more SOSE students now, and it's a big problem if we as faculty cannot give them the right amount of overseeing and guidance in the lab if we're shadowing 30, 48 students, especially in a chemistry lab, which has its own risks. And I think it would be wonderful if those concerns can also be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Concerns for room and number of students. Yes, Dr. Vilches.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Actually, these concerns have been brought up to us already. And then we're trying to build new labs, but also sometimes there are challenges in the number of students, but we're working on it. The back burner has been working 24 hours. And so thank you again for bringing that up. The Dean of SOSE knows all of these details as well, but thank you for bringing that up again.
Maraming salamat. Thank you. Ayan, mga kabahagi ng ating mga moving forward, no? With courage. And it's good to hear these things, ano? Para malaman natin kung ano pa po ang mga pwedeng mga tinig na maririnig natin. Any other concerns, questions, clarifications? We hope that we are taking note of these. We hope we can address them soon. Thank you very much for the patience of our faculty. We know you are also doing your best to provide learning for our students, no, the best possible. So maraming salamat sa pagbibigay ng inyong concern. Even the senior JVP program, nandun na sa stage na yun si Sir Gabi asking for senior JVP. I will sign up for that maybe in AMDG 2030. Yes. Any other concerns before we go for a break and have our picture taken? Yes.
Hi, good morning. I'm not sure if I'm the right person to do this, but I'm Ina Brown. I'm a professional. I'm one of the formators of the Office for Social Concern and Involvement, and we're very happy to be joining the Faculty Day ever since. But I think it's timely given what Father Bobby discussed about the THE rankings, about social development, what we're actually doing with our formation programs for the students. And I think it's just, I want to raise na, we hope that if more research are actually being done, and we're actually working with the students and helping them do more service learning or doing more research that actually helps them bring their discipline to the people on the ground, to the communities. And I think it's timely to say na hopefully we can have more faculty. Marami na po kasing mga champions. No? Marami na talaga kaming partner faculty that we're very happy to be working with. No? Hindi ko na po ililista, but I hope more faculty. Natuwa nga po actually po ako makarinig from someone na seasoned professor na that we're interested to immerse in communities, and we hope more faculty would be open to working with us. And medyo difficult yung service learning, but we're very happy to hear that more faculty would want to be involved in social involvement. And sana po yung research, just like what Ma'am Emma Porio is doing with Buklod Tao, which is actually one of our OSCE partners, na mas marami pa po sanang ganon. And yung mga sinasubmit nating research, we're very happy to work with you on research na, sabi nga po nung isang estudyante ko, sana ma'am, hindi lang siya research na nilalagay lang sa library or nakapublish lang, but actually doing practical applications that will be done for a specific community, a specific sector. And thank you very much, Manan.
Maraming salamat for that invitation for greater participation for our faculty, no, for our instruction and our research to also include service learning. Ayun. Maraming salamat for these comments and clarifications and questions. Sana po ang ating our So Good Bahay Gang. We don't have a So Good Bahay Gang, but we are streaming to our faculty who are joining us remotely. Magandang hapon sa inyo. We will be pausing for a break. We will miss you at our photo op that we will be doing by the stairs. Hopefully, the next faculty day you can join us. After our break, let's be back at around, it's now 10:24, let's be back at 10:40 para po sa susunod na bahagi ng ating programa. But before that, before having coffee and light refreshments for our snacks, let's proceed to the Leong Hall steps outside and have our picture taken. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Good morning, everyone. We are about to begin the second half of our morning plenary for our Faculty Day. For those who are watching remotely, magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. We will be resuming our program, the second half of our morning program, where we get to hear information and insights from the focus group discussion initiated by the Office of the University President to gather insights, data, to have a research on our experiences as a community in the university. We zero in on the experience of the Loyola schools this morning. Yan po ang ating aabangan ngayon. Sana po ay naging masarap ang inyong break. For those who are watching us remotely, for those who are driving, I hope you are driving safely. Wag po ninyong awayin ang mga traffic enforcers kung sakaling sitahin kayo na nanonood ng ating proceedings. Ayan. Tinuro na po ako ni Dr. Emma Porio from the outside at sinabi niyang andun na si Ariel. So, kaya po papasok na yata si Ma'am Emma. Hi, Ma'am Emma. Gandang umaga po. Welcome back to Balik Tanaw, looking back with compassion, moving forward with courage. Gusto kong banggitin also that Balik Tanaw is our Filipino title. I consulted with our chair of the Filipino department, Dr. Mike Corosa. Sir Mike, maraming salamat for suggesting Balik Tanaw. We were considering Lingon as part of the Filipino title. But some of us felt that it sounded like a horror movie. We also suggested Tunghay, but Tunghay is more of a looking up. Not really a bad choice, but he suggested, well, if the nature of if our theme is about looking back with compassion, but also in the desire of moving forward, Balik Tanaw may be an appropriate word. Balik to return, but also tanaw to look beyond. Earlier today, we look back from what our fellow faculty have mentioned, what we had before, itong mga daycare, we had those before. I remember we had that, and how we are again expressing, hopefully, that we can have these facilities again. We also acknowledge the context of our contractual faculty. We acknowledge these. We hope, we ask for your patience. These have been heard, and these have been are being considered. So to see what can be done, to make things better also for us as we move forward courageously. Gaya po ng nasabi natin na ngayong umaga, our second half, we will be hearing the data gathered from the research initiated by the Office of the University President. Ayan. Sige. Okay. This morning also will dovetail, hopefully, with our activity in the afternoon with our respective schools. Hopefully, the information that we will hear can inform our discussions and our reflections for our afternoon session. Yan. Nagbabalik po tayo. Back tayo sa regular programming. Back in the 1990s, around this hour, we will be watching Taysi ng Tahanan. On ABS-CBN, but of course we know that ABS-CBN has been closed down by the previous administration. And again, I'm mentioning that in an unlisted YouTube video streaming. Ayan, kasama po natin sila. Also, hello, some of our faculty chose to go to join us remotely. A stone's throw away at the CSR at Leong Hall. Meron din po tayong streaming doon. O gusto po ninyo yun? Nagsistream tayo, doon lang. Diba? Doon lang din. So pagka hindi nyo po kasama yung faculty na kausap ninyo kanina sa merienda, maybe they are attending the faculty day remotely. They're enjoying their voyeuristic experience. I say that jokingly. Oo, no. I'm able to laugh at my skinny jeans. So, I hope you can laugh at yourselves too. Sige, magandang umaga po. Ayan, hinihintay ko lang pong dumami ang ating mga faculty. We begin our program, our second half of the program, with an introduction of of the context of the research. We will have 3 speakers later in our next segment. We have Dr. Isabel Martin, Dr. Lian Alampay, and Father Francis Alvarez. After Dr. Lian Alampay's presentation, we'll have time for Q&A before we hear from Father Francis, and then we break for our salo-salo for lunch. So para po ipakilala ang ating second half at ang maririnig natin, we have Dr. Isabel Martin of GBC. Palakpakan po natin at pakinggan.
Good morning. Grabe, Ariel, na-miss kita talaga. Good morning. For the session today, we are going to talk about one part of the results of the Ateneo Blue Cloud research study, which was commissioned by the Office of Father Bobby Yap, our university president, in 2021. The study is a university-wide research on our university's efforts and experiences in the shift to online learning during the pandemic. What we wanted to find out in the study is to look at individual and collective efforts, as well as to assess the university's efforts in supporting the faculty and the staff during the unforeseen pandemic. For that study, we had a survey questionnaire administered online, and we'd like to thank everyone who participated. We had something like about close to 2,000 respondents for the online questionnaire across the 11 units of the university. And we also had the FGDs. We partnered with the psychology department for the FGDs, and the results for LS faculty and students will be presented today. Okay. Today's presentation will be a much needed opportunity to look back at our experience of teaching and learning during the pandemic, what we have learned during the pandemic about teaching, about our students, about Ateneo, and about ourselves. So a kind of, we can call it communal examen. What calls for celebration and what calls for self-improvement. But also the presentation today will serve as a springboard for our discussion in the afternoon on how to make use of what we have learned moving forward through concrete suggestions about our teaching practice and the university's policies and practices for the second SEM, but also for the long term. Now, as we listen to the presentation of Dr. Lian Alampay about the FGD results, we'd like you to reflect on two questions. I think you have that on the screen right now. Okay. Something to think about when we listen to Dr. Alampay. First, among the themes that emerged from the study, which ones did resonate the most to ourselves, and why? And which findings were most consistent or least consistent with our personal experiences as well as your colleagues' experiences, and in what way? Okay, so I would like to now turn the floor over to Dr. Alampay. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. We're very grateful for this opportunity to present the results of our study. And it's a good juncture in the program this morning to do this. So this morning, we saw the very stellar accomplishments of our community. And at this point, we want to go a little deeper, maybe a little more grounded. Ano ba talagang nangyari sa atin? No? And as a teacher myself, analyzing these FGDs, it really occurred to me that our community really experienced something hard in the last 2 years. No? And it was really something na pinagdaanan natin. No? And here we are, 2 years later, inevitably changed. So this is a good time to look back, and with compassion, and hopefully that would help us move forward. So before anything, I want to acknowledge the research team. We started this study in my first SEM as chair of the psychology department, and I'm so grateful to the battalion of graduate students who supported this study. Without their help, this would not have been accomplished. So this is all of them, and Daniel is also here today. So all in all, 23 focus group discussions were conducted with 80 faculty and 58 students from the various academic units of the university, as well as 21 parents of students in the basic education units. But today we will focus on the Loyola Schools FGDs. So for the Loyola Schools, we did 5 FGDs with a total of 38 faculty. And you see here the distribution of faculty across the different schools, as well as faculty teaching core curriculum subjects. How they were sampled, the deans nominated the participants and faculty were invited to participate. The faculty were a mix of junior and senior faculty and across different departments handling different year levels. For the Loyola School students, we conducted 4 FGDs across the 4 schools. Again, students were invited to participate via their school representatives of Sangu. And they were, again, a mix of year levels across different departments. But I want to note that these numbers are definitely not representative of the Loyola Schools community, which is why this exercise is so important, because it's a way of validating with the community whether these themes are in fact valid. So the FGDs were conducted in the first semester of 2021-2022. At that time, we were already a year into online teaching. Okay? The FGD questions were designed to elicit experiences of online teaching and learning during the pandemic. Teachers and students were asked about their experiences in the shift from face-to-face to online classes, the challenges and tensions that they encountered, as well as significant lessons, barriers, and facilitators in the transition. In the process of discussing these questions, responses regarding specific concepts relevant to adaptive design for learning were also noted and highlighted. These included, for example, sentiments about synchronous versus asynchronous, tensions between maintaining rigor versus compassion for the self and for students. So psychology grad students were trained to facilitate the FGDs. All FGDs were conducted online and recorded via the Zoom platform. Online tools such as Jamboard and Mentimeter were used to engage the participants in discussion. Each FGD took about 2 hours. Documenters took copious notes in real time. We also reviewed the recording to fill gaps in the notes, and verbatim quotes were extracted from the recordings. So thematic analysis was applied to the documentation notes using the procedures of Braun and Clark. The research team members read and reread the notes, reviewed the recordings, wrote memos. Initial codes were highlighted. Codes were then organized into patterns, and themes were constructed based on the patterns. We held a lot of meetings to validate, discuss, organize, refine, and label the themes. So moving now to the themes. Okay, so the first theme, it was just so striking. Throughout all the transcripts, all the FGDs, emotion words dominated the responses when teachers were asked about their experience. Nervous, scared, anxious were frequently mentioned. Uncharted territory kasi. Teachers did not have the knowledge or practice to draw from. Kaya ko ba to? Real self-doubt. So even as there was training provided on ADL, faculty asked themselves, can I do this? There was a sense of anxiety about not doing well and compromising students' learning. Feeling tired, frustrated, overwhelmed, exhausted were commonly cited as teachers embarked on this new process. Over the course of a year, teachers also reported feeling more positive emotions. I feel more confident, teachers said, and even I'm beginning to enjoy it. While many indicated that they still felt exhausted, faculty also felt gratified at their newfound creativity and resourcefulness. At the very least, they became open to learning more. So may movement from quite daunting or let's say negative emotions to more open and positive over time. Sabi ng isa, dumaan sa 5 stages of grief. Psychiat. Denial. Totoo ba to? Anger. towards government response and the whole COVID, bargaining, and hoping that we will somehow get to see students before they graduate. Tapos, acceptance. Nakaka-depress, pero tanggapin mo na. Ito ang sitwasyon natin, kailangang mag-adapt. And then also, even after decades of teaching, senior faculty were gratified that they learn something new pa rin. So this comes from a senior faculty. Sabi niya, kinaya namin at kinakaya pa rin namin. So a second theme had to do with rethinking roles and practices and what it meant to teach. Okay? So a major challenge in online teaching was the perceived lack of student engagement. The Zoom synchronous session was a far cry from the real classroom. Attendance dipped, cameras were off. Okay? Students preferred asynchronous than attending synchronous. So the energy, nonverbal feedback that fed the teacher's class were absent. Ito yung mga sinabi ng mga teachers, no? And I'm sure we all resonate, no? Yung nagle-lecture ka pero black lahat nung kaharap mo, di ba? So discussions were awkward, not as rich. Many students remained silent or they resorted to the chat function. Okay? And one teacher said, students relied on what was posted in Canvas, did not show up in his sessions, and he felt disrespected by this experience. So to adjust, faculty had to unlearn usual ways of teaching, many veering away from traditional lectures to employ new practices that emphasize design as well as content. They learned to use more multimedia resources to be content creators. Many found this eventually rewarding, but the demands of preparation brought on feelings of inadequacy and exhaustion, compounded by challenges in learning how to use the tech tools and the Canvas LMS. So sabi nung isa, I had a lot of unlearning to do. I thought so well before. In my previous years, it was content and topics. Sometimes it happens, I just know the topic, then that's it. Di ba? You wing it. Kaya mo nang dalhin. But now, hindi na pwedeng ganon. And then another said, I was really exhausted. Suddenly, we are content creators. A lot of faculty are expected to be content creators, which we are not. So over the course of a school year, faculty gradually adapted to new technologies and platforms and learned what worked well, what did not. There was a sense of having stretched themselves and overcome challenges and growing as a teacher. So over time, they discovered and used applications such as Mentimeter, Jamboard, and Padlet. These were mentioned by teachers. Some learned to curate YouTube videos and other online resources. There was a recognition na hindi pala lahat kailangang manggaling sa akin. There's really a lot of resources online. Teachers learned from student feedback and implemented more flexible applications of appropriate strategies. Okay? For some teachers, sabi nila, it was the first time they had explicitly asked students for feedback about how a certain material or module was delivered. Faculty were also mindful of what was parang the limits, no, of their capacities. So sabi rin ng ibang faculty, ganito lang ang kaya ko. No, I won't go through all the hoops and the jam boards. No, ito lang ang kaya ko. So one teacher said, no, the creative problem-solving side of me was happy to engage. How do I get students to learn? No? So game na game siya. When I indulge that side, I really enjoy. That's why I'm a teacher, and if tools would help, I'm all for it. Okay? In the earlier quarters of online teaching, there was also a tendency to apply all the principles and tools they had learned in the ADL workshops. But this resulted in overwhelming the students as well as the teacher. For instance, weekly discussion boards were less helpful in hindsight. Students and teachers could not really read and discuss each other's insights given the large volume of posts. With respect to synchronous and asynchronous sessions, teachers eventually learned to balance the use of the two strategies depending on the topic and the needs of the students. For instance, synchronous sessions were deemed more important for complex topics such as mathematics, because this needs more real-time responses and hands-on student practice and guidance from the teachers. Okay? So sabi nga dito ng isang teacher, there seems to be a partiality for asynchronous over synchronous. That was a recommendation in the beginning. But based on feedback from students, no, he was doing mostly synchronous sessions to make up. Faculty also utilized synchronous time, not for lectures, but to check in with students, integrate and discuss asynchronous modules, address student questions, and for peer group activities. So over time, no, parang a balance was attained. A fourth theme, no, changes in interactions and relationships with students. Okay. So teachers realized that they needed to interact with students in new ways to enhance the online learning experience. Rules and expectations that used to be implicit when we were doing face-to-face teaching now needed to be stated explicitly and posted in the Canvas course. Kung wala sa Canvas, wala, no? Writing out instructions, rubrics for assignments, indicating consequences for late or non-submission of requirements. If such expectations were not indicated in the syllabus or in Canvas, students tended to miss them. Okay? Teachers found themselves praising students for things they never really praised students for before, like attending class. No? Thank you for being here. No? Thank you for turning on your camera so I could see your face. No? So these simple acts reinforced these behaviors, the praise, no? And increased online student engagement. So a major concern of several teachers was that the online setup posed a barrier to forming relationships with students. In the classroom and in campus corridors, teachers and students approach and converse each other spontaneously. Diba? But the online space did not afford this spontaneity, especially when there are no visual cues. Okay? And teachers were aware that many of their students were struggling, okay? Really struggling. Sabi ng isang teacher, the first-year students seemed shocked. No? Parang in shock sila. They saw the lack of engagement and responsiveness in schoolwork as a worrying sign. But unfortunately, being online made it difficult to reach out and connect to these students. Paano mo ipararamdam ang cura personalis virtually? No? Hindi mo sila mahagilap. On the other hand, no, Other faculty noted that there were ways to still build genuine connections, such as through the chat feature in Zoom, a mode some students felt more comfortable using. Reflection papers, online or emailed consultations with the faculty. So online interactions can be meaningful and intentional, but more effortful. So one teacher said some will never come to class, to consultation. Even if I ask for feedback, they don't answer, they don't send a message. This creates a situation that I don't have their feedback, I cannot help them. At the end of the day, what do? You can pass them now, but are you really helping them to learn? And then there were issues also with boundaries, no? Even if it's online, I had to be present for them. Nag-Viber, nag-email. You have to respond so that they feel more connected to you as a teacher. Problem lang, magte-text ng 11 ng gabi. Ayan. So if you're very available, they become needy rin. A fifth theme, no? There were tensions in perceptions of students and expectations from students. So we know that academic policies were adjusted, na ba? Because of the pandemic. We know that guidelines were set on learning hours per class. Attendance was not required to accommodate students who experience difficulties with internet, and so to also help manage their workload. Faculty were also encouraged all the time, no, to practice compassion and be flexible. So in this context, some teachers in the Loyola schools perceived their students as gaming the system, that was the teacher's words, and manipulating policies to benefit them. The faculty reported that students would raise several issues when teachers gave assignments and would usually, more than before, request adjustments in timelines and requirements. Faculty noted there were lower expectations from students, a lot of hand-holding and coddling, whereas expectations from teachers remained the same. The constant need to adjust standards and requirements and manage student demands led to teachers feeling frustrated and disheartened. They felt their standards were being compromised, as well as their well-being. So teachers said, I noticed a tremendous amount of entitlement across the students. I had beadles and classes that said, we're not going to do this, we won't do that. I thought it was a very strange across-the-board attitude that was fed by the administration. Don't let the teachers do this to you. Another said the rules seemed to be biased for students. Students used the memo or technicalities against requirements set by the teacher. I feel like I don't have a hold on the situation when students raise these technicalities. Anong silbi ng teacher? Okay. Despite some of these perceptions about students, all faculty generally tried to exercise more flexibility and compassion towards students. And they really did empathize with their struggles. No? There was full recognition that everyone was experiencing challenges during the pandemic. So a teacher also said, no, they were terribly overworked. The beadle said, sir, we have to pick and choose what we're going to get done. If it's not graded, we have to do the stuff that's going to get graded. Still, all teachers in all units generally express the idea that extending too much compassion would compromise standards and students' learning and skills. Boundaries must be drawn, and faculty often struggled with setting these boundaries. Hanggang ngayon, no? We have faculty approaching the chairs asking, paano ba to? the impact of the pandemic was understandably a pervasive theme in the FGBs. The pandemic touched all aspects of teachers' lives. It affected their personal and work lives. It affected online teaching. They also served as administrators, okay? And so here is a quote from an administrator, okay? As teachers and administrators, there are always new challenges. I couldn't break down in the middle of everything, even if I had my personal concerns, because it would affect the faculty members and our students as well. Another said, no, I started to learn what my limitations are. I'm a really industrious teacher, but I have to make compromises. I don't want to go back to that place last year when I was tiring myself so much. So even if I slack off a bit, if it's making me sane, I will choose that. Fighting for my peace and sanity is a priority. There were also positive effects. Lalo na ngayon, damang-dama natin ang pagbabalik, no, ng traffic. So, working from home and not needing to drive or commute, saving time, no? They appreciated the increased flexibility and balance, being able to rest in the middle of the day, attend to children and personal matters. Spending more time with one's family was an immense benefit, okay, as Joseph brought up earlier. But still, no, faculty expressed a longing for human connection and feelings of loneliness as they worked from home. Some said they missed working and meeting with colleagues. Yan. Missed the meetings. Totoo yan, ha? There were also practical negative effects, no? Increased fatigue, eye strain. Yan. For teachers with young children, it was difficult to find time to help their own children with online schooling, given their own preoccupation with their own classes. And the last theme, no, would be ADL as a huge source of support, as well as a challenge. So the ADL trainings provided by the SALT Institute were perceived as challenging, fun, and helpful. The workshops provided the initial framework and tools to embark on online teaching. Without this support, both young and seasoned teachers said they would not have known how to start. So lahat nakakapit doon, sabi nila. More than explaining principles of online teaching, the workshops allowed the faculty to review the fundamentals of sound pedagogy, such as creating assessments based on course learning outcomes and other foundations of designing optimum learning experiences. So malaking bagay na may panimula, lahat nakakapit doon. And another said, no, I realized that ADL was needed by both young and seasoned teachers. It brought a sense of community. There was also admiration from other schools. They were amazed at how quickly Ateneo transitioned. Now I hope faculty will have the option to choose on-site or off-site classes in the future. People said, ang galing ng Ateneo. There was also a lot of opportunity to work together because of ADL. Junior and senior faculty worked together on course design. Senior faculty would mentor younger faculty in course content, while the junior faculty coached the older faculty in how to use online tools and applications. So this also helped to create a sense of community in the units. So just a summary of the themes. No? Kanina, in the reflection question, no, Isabel asked, are there any themes that struck you in particular that you really resonated with? So the mixed emotions. It was a very emotional 2 years. Having to rethink what it meant to be a teacher, your roles, your practices, having to learn and apply new strategies and tools, the changes in interactions and relationships with students, the tensions in perceptions of students, the pandemic touching all aspects of our lives, and ADL as a support. Let's move now to the Loyola School students. Okay. So for Loyola Schools, 32 undergrad students participated in the FGDs, 5 from humanities, 10 from social sciences, 6 from School of Management, and 11 from science and engineering. As with the faculty FGDs, results from the different units are integrated, no? And these are the common themes. So one major theme, no, was the disconnection and misperception on the part of teachers. So there was a common observation among the students that their professors misperceived their experiences, which led to feelings of disconnection and a sense that there were unjust expectations placed upon them. They assume, for instance, that we already take the rest of the day off, but I don't know anyone who follows that to the dot. That's something I wish our professors would understand more. There was inaccurate time allotment for the modules. The students shared that the suggested time per module for accomplishing asynchronous requirements was inaccurate. They always had to rush to keep up with deadlines and would often not be able to accomplish modules by the indicated time. Okay. Students felt that professors also seemed to assume that because they have more access to resources and they were at home, no, that they had more free time. So this would lead professors to assign more deliverables and assignments than they did pre-pandemic. Another concern was delayed feedback on outputs and performance. Okay. Since professors and students see each other in such a limited space with set schedules, students were unable to assess how well they were doing in classes. Feedback and grades would not be provided consistently on the platform. Some teachers would hide the scores or release them very late. Others would not give comments on submissions, so students felt unsure of their performance. So these are issues that are present even in face-to-face teaching. But we think that perhaps because of the online setup and limited connections with the teachers, the feedback took on a greater importance. So not having this feedback gave rise to more self-doubts among the students. A second theme, no, this is very straightforward. Students were just telling, what helped, what were good practices, and what hindered. So they shared several strategies that they observed, being proactive in the learning process, both from the effort of students to learn and the intentionality of the professors in aiding them, were found to be strategies that were most helpful. So they liked interactive sessions. Because of the restricted face-to-face interaction, these synchronous small group discussions and activities provided a much-needed level of peer interaction that supplemented self-led learning. Some undergrad students said that group work fostered friendships since they would work together for the whole semester. They sought opportunities for live clarifications and active discussion, which were helpful, since some topics needed in-person explanations. Established schedules also aid in the students' time management. Students found it helpful to have their own routine. So they appreciated professors who gave full access to modules on time and teachers who have clear deadlines for requirements so that they could organize their time better and are not blindsided. Okay. They seemed to struggle with last-minute announcements on deadlines, but still wanted schedules to be flexible as the semester progressed. So here's a quote that says that they appreciate the perspectives shared in class. We know this already. No? Forget that, no? Never again. Let's not do that. But it was a lesson we had to learn, right? The need for the cohesiveness in course design. No? So students observe that some professors' lectures don't connect and tie in with the modules or the exams. Sometimes the assessments did not match the resources that were provided. Okay. Again, these concerns were present, no, even pre-pandemic, but because in the online setup, it's a very visible way of teaching, diba? All your PowerPoints, everything is there. So it seemed that students were able, no, to observe these things more, these inconsistencies, these gaps, because it's all laid out for them on Canvas. They also noted, no, that some professors did not go beyond what was already given in the asynchronous lessons. The Canvas notifications were a source of anxiety. No? So kung tayo na-anxious sa mga Viber nila at 11 p.m., sila na-anxious sa nag-post yung teacher ng 2 a.m., ganyan. So since announcements are given online, younger students shared that receiving notifications at odd hours brought about anxiety. This further blurred the boundaries between school and other commitments. Okay? This is also consistent with the observation of the teachers that the discussion boards were not very helpful. Okay. Students shared that these boards felt more like a requirement than a conversation. Okay. Teachers would not even respond to them, so they were unsure if their answer was correct. Some students felt that discussion board answers were based on uniqueness, and they struggled with coming up with novel ideas. Kasi nakita na yung sagot nung iba. No? Navigating multiple platforms was challenging. Okay? It was not standardized since professors would use the features and pages differently. Okay? Sometimes they did not know where to find certain reminders or links. Okay? They use various platforms. And also, although content was more accessible to students in the sense that they had, just to go online to view them, some professors retained control of content, like class recordings, modules, grades. Okay? Some modules would be opened late, affecting schedules of the students. Feedback and grades were also limited to whenever the professor decides to post. Okay. So that was all about, things, observations, strategies that were helpful and less helpful. A third theme, no, was about experiences and emotions of students as persons. No? So like the teachers, they also felt a range of emotions brought about by the pandemic. Okay? Most concerning for them was the isolation. Okay? There was a lot of self-doubt connected with the disconnection, no, from their classmates and their teachers. They were overwhelmed by a lot of work. Okay? Some said it was manageable over time, okay, but still not ideal. So the term the students used, no, was just surviving. Okay? I'm just surviving. Students felt the quality of learning was affected because of the overloaded requirements. They would try to finish tasks to just pass, but their understanding was compromised. Some shared that they would watch videos at a faster speed, parang K-drama, to finish it quicker and to get a basic idea of the module. But of course, this affected the level at which they understood the lesson. So, sabi nila, at times they don't remember what they learned in the previous semester. Because after an assessment, they would forget the content and move on to the next task. Rest feels counterproductive. No? Even when there's a break, they use the breaks to catch up. Parang tayo rin, di ba? Some would choose to keep working, no? After school hours during weekends. No? So talagang the sentiment was too much work, not enough time. Blurred boundaries, no? The lack of hard stops in the school day made it difficult for students to compartmentalize between school and home. Students would be asked to help out around the house while classes were ongoing because they seemed available to the parents also. Students had less anxiety about living. Being at home lessens the burden of travel, commute, and food. No? You don't have to worry about where to eat, what to eat. Students were able to devote more time to self-care. Okay? And they became more aware of the importance of balance and self-care. But also they longed for interaction. Okay? So they felt they were in a bubble, they were disconnected from the world outside school. Okay? Interacting with peers really facilitates learning and mood. Okay? Even though some introverts said no, they preferred the online setup, they would still feel the isolation after some time. A fourth theme also had to do with changes in interactions with peers and instructors. Okay. In the same way that teachers recognized the difficulties that students were experiencing, the students seemed to also recognize the shared struggle with teachers. Despite many concerns and challenges the students shared, there was a sense of hesitation on their part to raise their concerns with professors or the administration. They were unsure of how their professors would react and would rather stay silent. Okay. They were reluctant to bring up concerns because they knew both sides were struggling. So students said, no, we take into consideration both parties as we are both struggling. And some said students should also notice the changes that Ateneo has been making and adjusting for the students. We don't ask for stuff anymore, no? Because we know sa start pa lang that they will say no. They're afraid to approach or ask, no? Because we know how the prof can possibly react. They found support and connection from fellow students in resourceful ways. No? They would create online channels for studying and host inumans, no, as a way to bond with each other. Okay, the student council, beadles, and upperclassmen were helpful in disseminating information and providing tips and guidance. Okay. They were all on the same page, so they felt they could share with their peers and have support for the concerns that they shared. Okay, so that's it, no, for the students. So at this point, parang I just from my own observations, no, that there were some parallel themes or parang counterpoints between the teachers and students, no. Feelings of disconnection. So teachers felt disconnected from students. Students felt disconnected from teachers also, no. So there were tensions around misperceptions, no. So teachers perceived students as in the words, no, of those in the FGD, as manipulating the system, no, or taking advantage of the accommodations. No. Students also felt, no, that teachers had misperceptions about what they were going through in terms of workload. I think on both sides, no, we were learning what were more or less effective online strategies over time. So a lot of the points that students mentioned that were not helpful, I think over time, teachers figured that out also, no, and adjusted their strategies accordingly. And I wanted to also highlight that both sides, no, madaming pinagdaanan, and that despite, you know, the struggles, the misperceptions, the tensions, these struggles were mutually recognized, and there were efforts from both sides to try and accommodate and be more empathic. So that's the end of my presentation.
Maraming salamat. Palakpakan po natin si Dr. Alampay. Thank you, Doc Lian. Thank you. These are the insights and informations and themes that we will be bringing for our afternoon session as we answer the questions that will be presented later by Father Francis. No? Lahat tayo ay iba-iba talaga ang karanasan, ngunit may pagkakatulad-tulad din. Not just as an LS community of faculty and professionals, but also with our students. Ano? At this point, we have a few minutes for questions, clarifications, sharings. Not so much to address them really or answer them or give solutions, period, but I think maybe just to also hear other insights and questions from people. And we have people who are already standing and raising their hand. So we'll turn on the microphones.
Hello, I'm Emmanuel De Leon. I'm a part-time faculty and I'm also a health advocate. So I just want to thank Ateneo because I observed during the pandemic, there were talks by the health department on how to be healthy, like taking vitamins and the importance of zinc and really having a healthy food to eat. Because I think that helped me a lot during this pandemic. And also, I want to, but now I observed when we were eating there, the food in the merienda was not healthy. So I suggest next time, avoid white bread. I suggest if you cater, it has to be whole wheat bread because fiber is very important. We need 30 grams of fiber, all of us. Because I, as a senior, I would say I'm very healthy. I just had my blood test. Everything was okay. And believe it or not, I still do 100 push-ups, but not straight, Monday and Friday. So health is the greatest of wealth. We must also all be health advocates, especially the seniors, and some of my students got COVID. I was shocked. I did not get COVID, but they did. So it is in the food they eat. We must all be health advocates. And our weight, to those who are obese, sad to say, my friends who are seniors, the obese, they were the first to go. So we have to do everything in our power to be in our ideal weight. I'm just promoting my health advocacy. I guess that's it. Thank you. God
Thank you,
bless
Sir
us.
Noel. Maraming salamat sa paalala. We will take note of your suggestion for our dietary requirements. Surprisingly, even though I'm Asian, I'm allergic to gluten. Apparently, that happens. We can be allergic to it. But thank you, Sir Noel, for that insight. Thank you, Sir Benji. And then, yes, please proceed to our microphone so that we know also that you will be to have a question. Sir Benji.
Yeah, this is not a follow-up.
Sige lang po.
No, I was wondering, Lian, if people were conscious or if this came up, that we were implementing a new curriculum during the pandemic. No, we were just on the second year of implementation of the new curriculum, not just the core, no, the entire curriculum, including the majors and the co-curriculum. So in fact, there were courses that were taught for the first time online, no? And we actually graduated the first K-12 cohort last year, di ba?
Yes.
2022. And 2 years of that were spent online. So I was wondering whether there were aspects of that that were shared and how it affected the people. Were people conscious at all, no, that this was a new curriculum?
That there was also a change in terms of
so
delivering.
on top
of the change of the pandemic is
Yeah.
the change in curriculum. Yes, Sir. I'm Doc Lian.
Thanks, Benji. Parang hindi naman kasi I think there was
Dito na lang po kayo, Doc Ian. Sige po. Yes, hello, yes.
ano to? There was a sense kasi that even courses that were already being taught had to be redesigned and overhauled. So I think the sense na it was a new preparation was across the board. So for new courses, but also courses that were already being taught for a long time, they had to be redesigned.
Thank you. Before we have our next question, for those who are watching us remotely, we have a bit.ly and a QR code that you can scan. So you can address your questions, and Mr. Chris Castillo will be helping me out harvest the themes also of these questions. Again, it does not guarantee that we will be able to address all of those. Tao lamang po, kahit nga po ang Diyos ay nagpakatao at may limitasyon. So, wag po tayong magtatampo. Don't take it personally if your question does not get asked. Okay? So the QR code, we will be flashing it now below. Wow, nagagawa ko na po ito, oh. Tasting ng tahanan. Yes. Scan the QR code below so you can have your questions. We'll be asking your email also so that hopefully if we cannot answer, we'll do our best to also address them. Nakatayo na po si Sir. Oo.
Yes, hello. I'm Oman Tanchinka from JGSOM. And I'd like to just validate the findings of the research because my dissertation is exactly on the same topic. I did a 2-year study covering 30 plus students, 50 plus faculty members, 20 FGDs. And it's just interesting that in the first year kasi, just to share my findings as an abstract, charot. In the first year kasi, parang there was a really sense of compassion and mutuality between students and teachers. My study is called Teacher-Student Positioning in the Emerging Moral Order of Online Education. And there was a feeling of compassion and mutuality in the first year. However, in the second year, ang sabi ng mga bata, naka-move on na sila teacher, kami hindi pa. So I think that's where the disconnect is happening.
Yeah, the divergence.
And I've been given a 3rd year of ethics clearance to do this, to do another round of study, because I think we're just in the beginning of this very long journey of a new education. And I'm hoping to get cohorts at saka nag-apply po ako ng LS Research Grant, baka naman po dyan, yan ba si Jael, para po matuloy natin, di ba? Gusto natin lahat to. And I think it really is not just for research, but as an educational institution, I think we really need to know what's going to happen because this is a big change in the way that we have been teaching and the way that students are learning. It's not a one-time thing. You know, it's not that we went online, now we're back on-site, tapos na. Hindi eh. Kasi I think we're bringing a lot of baggage and a lot of learnings with us. So thank you. So Jael. Thank you.
Maraming salamat. Maraming salamat, Oman, sa sharing na yan. We'll await for the publication now that the abstract has been orally presented. We have a question from this side.
Yes, good morning. I'm curious about during the FGD extraction of responses because I saw a lot of hedges or the toning down of the statements from students. I'm not sure if it's the voice of the researcher or the voice of the actual voice of the students because I'm really curious as to the manner the students provided these statements because if the hedges came from them, then that means they're also trying to understand us. But if they were blatantly and outright stated that si teacher ganito, si teacher ganyan, blah 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 blah. So baka they're coming from a POV, a perspective that thinking that their teachers completely did not understand their situations. So I'm curious about that thing. Thank you.
Yun.
Yeah, it was verbatim. So we listened to the recordings, no, and those quotes were extracted verbatim. But they didn't mention teachers. Did they name particular teachers? No, they didn't. I'll let our graduate assistant also respond, no, because she's closer to the student data.
Yes, the responses were taken verbatim, but something we observed also was some of the students were more, some of the students were more, had a little bit more negative sentiments, although they did not explicitly name anyone. But then there were others who were more compassionate and more understanding of the professors. So there were really both sides in all the FGDs.
Maraming salamat. As for me, my neighbors have now a certificate on Philippine literature in our compound because they have been hearing my lectures for the past school year. The Homeowners Association of Nest Residences have acknowledged me during the Christmas party. They now understand May Bagyumat, May Rilim, Spanish colonial poem. Yun po ang effect nung aming, because I live in a townhouse, so lahat kami nagkarinigan na. So congratulations to my neighbors who have now certificates in Philippine Literature Studies. Ma'am Mary.
Thank you, Mayor Roselio Socioanthro. Actually, this is a follow-up to what you've said, because in socioanthro and I guess other social sciences, we are used to being in the field, talking to real people. That's our source of data. So this poses great dilemmas when you're trying to teach students that and they cannot go to the field. One of the great things of what happened because of the depends on internet was we were able to work out with the students ways in which they could still, using Messenger, interview people whom, let's say, urban poor communities is what I would introduce them to, and they would connect with people on Messenger and learn things that way. And even the communities who are not used to this were getting used to how to be on Zoom because we would organize Zoom meetings with the communities in some cases, right? So that was a whole new learning opportunity that we all had to adjust on both sides. But one additional thing is what you said. We said to the students, you don't always have to go to a community somewhere else. You're in a community. You're home. Look around you where you can talk. And we found many of them interviewed their grandparents because they were there and got family histories. So it did open up new opportunities to rethink how do you do field work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that insight, Ma'am Mary. In improv, we always say that we access our inventory of experiences because we don't have scripts to work with. The improviser has to access everything that is possible because everything becomes a gift, even as they are curses also. But everything becomes a gift that you have to build on, ano? And my improvising skills did not work during the pandemic. It was very challenged, no? Kaya totoo po yung, ako po yata yung post-it na I feel I am inadequate yun. Ako, yes. I think I felt that was for me. That was for me. Okay, yes. Anything else that we have can share? Again, these are insights and sharings. Ano, we can talk about these things, how these converge or diverge with our personal and collective experiences as teachers, as educators, as a department, as a school, no? As we move on to the answers later, to the questions later. We have questions from our home partners. That's also a looking back, no? For those who do not know what home partners are, you better Google them. No, home partners, complete with your proof of purchase Alaska Evap branding. We have a question. Yes, Chris.
Okay, salamat Ariel. Mula sa ating home partners, hindi ko napapangalanan. Alright, nabunot na. But they're from the School of Humanities. These are two questions from two individuals. Are there any insights about best practices with relating or connecting to students? And the other question is, will there be a study on transition to on-site?
So we have two questions, no? One are some best practices that I think may be good to discuss later on, ano? What good practices, no? Baka kasi the best has been parang nakaka-pressure, no, nakaka-trigger. So maybe just good practices that work. Yes, I just aim for the good, man. I mean, that is my excellent. And how about potential further studies?
Sagutin ko yung mga na-bring up na good practices in connecting with students was the ones I mentioned also in the presentation, using the chat function. No? A lot of students would not go out and turn on their camera and verbalize, but they will use the chat function, no, to share their thoughts. No? One-on-one or synchronous consultations with their professors, no, is also mentioned. Ano pa ba? Yeah, being able to access them via email and Viber if the teacher allowed that. No? So those were using reflection papers to connect. Meron ding mga nagbanggit noon na nakilala din nila yung mga estudyante nila through reflection papers. And I think there were more papers of that sort required during the pandemic because there were less objective assessments, no, that were being assigned. So mas maraming papel. So those were some of the things from the FGDs, but I'm sure the teachers here would have many more best practices.
Yeah, for the second question, the GBC was commissioned to work on this study just for the first year of the pandemic. So unlike the study of Oman, we only covered that very wild school year. No? But so we will ask the Office of Father Bobby about the possibility of looking at that. But I'd like to add to that because ADL came out, no, in the study. ADL, as according to Galvin, will be redesigned so that it would now address the on-site. No? Remember when we started with ADL, we were really just talking about online. Now that will change. No? It will have to be redesigned to cover what we hope to do in the future. So although there's no study yet, SALT is already looking at training for what we will be facing in the next school years.
Maraming salamat, Doc Isabel. I hope those our home partners heard those responses. Ano? Yes. Para po hindi tayo malipasan ng gutom. Before we end our session here as one big plenary, we call on Father Francis Alvarez to share the questions and some contexts also as we answer these questions that we will be discussing within our schools. Father
So
Francis?
good noon. I know it's noon time already. I know we're raring to go to lunch, but we can't let you go without your homework. So let me try to go through this as fast as I can. This happened at a recent Adele concert. Not that yet. Bakit wala? Ayan. Can we go one slide back? Let's start it again. One slide back. Go back.
When I look through the crowd, I wish you could see what I can see. I know I talk to a few people every night, but then I just see little stories of people happening, and there was a man. He's just can you see him holding his phone up? I think that's his wife on his phone, and I don't think she's here. And it just really moved me. I just like really walking around, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm so sorry I didn't realise what you were showing me until I was moving over there. Sorry, but I see these little pockets of people's lives when I walk through. It's so beautiful.
So I'm sorry about that. It was working earlier. But let me take you through what was happening in that video. Can we just have the slide na lang? Not the video? Sige, let's be compassionate po.
Yes. Yes.
It's okay, let's not show the video anymore. Let's just go to the next slide. Is that possible? Next slide. So let me just take you through what was happening. There was a man in the audience, and he was holding up a phone with a photograph of a woman on it. And then every now and then he would touch his heart. That was the slide. Now, I don't think that was a failed attempt to take a selfie. Yes. I'm a romantic, and I subscribe to this theory that husband and wife made a deal to go to an Adele concert, but the wife did not make it. So the husband kept the bargain, kept his end of the deal, even if it's just to bring the photo of the wife to the concert. And Adele saw this while she was performing, and she mentions it on stage. And then she says, you know, when I perform here on stage, I see pockets of lives unfolding before me. I see stories, and they're beautiful. Why do we have Faculty Day? It's because we are not Adele. Many times we take to the stage without the spotlight or the dazzling gown, of course. But we don't see the pockets of stories unfolding in the audience area or among our colleagues. Faculty Day is when we take some time to say,
Now we listen to the pockets of stories. Now we listen to those lives that unfolded without our noticing. What is Faculty Day? Faculty Day is us telling each other, hello, it's me. I was wondering if after all these years of the pandemic, you'd like to meet face to face. Hello, it's me. They say that time heals everything. So how is your healing? Hello, from the other side of the pandemic. We come together and we say hello and we share the pockets of stories that we have. Our gathering today is called, next slide please, Balik Tanaw, looking back with compassion, moving forward with courage. And one of the most compassionate things that we can do, next slide please, is to celebrate each other's victories. And that's the first part of the afternoon, to celebrate each other's victories. And we'll try to answer these questions. Next slide, please. What calls for celebration in my school and or in my department? What have been our success stories? What have we learned about technology, about learning and teaching, about our students, about one another as a professional community that we can build on not only the second semester, but for the longer term? What can we celebrate? And we share our celebrations. And we can celebrate so much. From the study, we were nervous, we were stressed, we were anxious, we had self-doubt. Pero, sabi nga nung isang teacher, kinaya at kinakaya pa rin. There is so much to celebrate. Earlier, the gospel was, you are salt, you are light. And we were light. Even though there was so much darkness in us as well, we spread light. We were salt. We added flavor to lives. Kahit minsan, ang ating alay, hindi lang alat, kundi panis at pait din. And yet, we were salt, we were light. There is something to celebrate. I hope we share our victories. What we celebrate, we are thankful for. Next slide, please. So a personal question for you. What calls for thanksgiving in your life? What are you most grateful for personally and professionally? What realizations might I have both as a person and educator as a result of these? What are you celebrating? What are you thankful for? And as you reflect on your gratitude and what you're thankful for, I hope you keep this in mind. Let's hope the video plays this time. Will we ever find a space to park? To every little good thing in life. Cheers. Boyfriend and girlfriend go to a restaurant, they order crab with noodles, but there's only one crab claw. Boyfriend gives it to girlfriend. Ang sarap. Boyfriend will just take the noodles. But wait! To every little good thing in life. Cheers. I hope that what you can be thankful for need not be big things. You don't have to be part of the global burden of disease collaborators. No. Just bearing the burden of the disease is already something to be thankful for. They don't have to be big things, small things na kinaya. I hope you can spend time on your Thanksgiving. And then, but we go back to the title of our gathering, looking back with compassion, moving forward with courage. Two of the most courageous questions that we can ask are not just, can I pull off skinny jeans like Ariel? But what can we do better? And now what? Third set of questions. What calls for reflection in the Loyola schools and the university? What concrete practices and support structures should we consider starting, continuing, and or stopping? What specific suggestions might we have for the Loyola schools and or the university? Now, some people might say, like, this would be the more substantial part of the sharing. But I say no. The first two parts are also very important. Why? It's one of the principles of transformative learning. In order to learn, you need both support and challenge. To get to this challenge part, you need to be strong in the support part. Another way of saying that is to be able to face things with courage, you need compassion. Spend time on the first two, the thank yous, the celebrations, before you get to the challenges. What do you need to start, continue, and stop to be able to go deeper into your reflection? Just to recap, these are the questions that were emailed to you by some department chairs already. The questions on Thanksgiving, the questions on celebration, the questions on what you need to start, stop, and continue. Don't worry, they were emailed to you. You don't need to answer all. Again, don't worry, this was emailed to you. And then you don't need to answer all, but I hope you discuss all. And the homework is output for number 2 and number 3. Again, don't go to number 3 right away. Spend time on 1 and 2, the support, to go to the challenge. The different schools and department chairs, it's up to you how you want to structure this. You may have a group, breakout groups before the plenary meeting. It's also up to you how you want to submit this to your chairs. But we look forward to reading your reports. We hope that you'll have a good time reporting, reflecting, and I hope this afternoon you'll find yourselves rolling in the deep. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Father Francis. Yes, the report is not an individual report. It is a collective report. Please do not be afraid. However, I know this is the same feeling our students feel when we say that the deadline is tomorrow. But no, the deadline is not tomorrow. The discussion happens this afternoon. And please coordinate with your chairs and your deans regarding their system of generating and collating these insights that will be coming from your discussions this afternoon. Maraming salamat po sa atin po mga nakikinig dyan sa ating mga bahay. Sana po masarap ang inyong tanghalian. I hope your sinaing is made of local rice in support of local farmers. Maraming salamat po. This is Ariel Diccion, your school forum chair. We'll see each other. Salamat po. We'll see each other next week kasi may special school forum po. On-site din po yung ating school forum. We'll have a memo for that. Before we go for our salo-salo at the Leong Hall roof deck, I'd like to personally thank the people and the village that are behind. Ako lamang po ang nakikita ninyo pero ang dami pong mga katwang sa likod ng ating mga ginagawa ngayon. We have Kuya Mario, Kuya Mike, ado sina Kuya Teng, Kuya Tirso, of course, sina Cecil and Tinay, Chris, sina F, no, maraming salamat sa kanila. At ang mga kasama pa sa OVPLS, it's easier to be in front of you because they have my back. And that's one principle that we have, of course, sa ating improv. Yes, okay. SOS, kahit po tayo ay late na ng start, SOS will begin at 1:30 according to Ma'am Bo Peep dito po sa Lyong Hall. Ayan. These are the breakout sessions. Ayan, dito po. Ayan. SOS, no? SOS ay dito sa Lyong Hall. So tama po ito, but they will start at 1:30. Yes. Thank you. SOSE will also start at 1:30. Okay. So everyone will start at 1:30. Okay. Good job. Well done. Okay. See you.